Welcome to Created Healthy. I'm Dawn Combs. It's a common idea that God gave us everything we need in nature, but do we believe it enough to walk that out in truth? Often the very same people who say this go looking for answers on how to use food and medicine from man-made sources. Everything man creates comes with a user's manual. Why would God be any different? I challenge you to join me in seeking revelation about our body, mind, soul, and spirit health by digging into His written word and in practicing pure science in the visible world of His creation. There's a line in Kung Fu Panda that my husband and I quote all the time, and it's the line where the turtle says, "There are no coincidences." We say it a lot because when you're walking on God's path and you walk in faith, you wind up in places that you never intended to go, and you often don't know why you're there because you have responded to being directed. And it's those moments when we get to be used in God's plan, where we get to see miracles unfold. So today in Judges 4-6, there is an incident of that happening. Israel has stepped away again. There were a couple judges that were put in place, and once they died, then Israel went back to serving the Baals, and God sold them. He allowed them to be sold into the hands of Jabin, king of Canaan. And while they're there, it was 20 years of oppression, and not a good situation, and they put up with it for a while, and then just like always, they cried out to God because they realized that they were on the wrong path, and they realized who could help them, and they called out to God. And God has Deborah. This is the female judge that we see in Judges. She is brought forward, and it says that she would sit under the trees, and the sons of Israel would come to her for judgment. And this reminds me of yesterday's reading. They were coming to her for good judgment, sound judgment, emotionally mature judgment, and critical thinking that was leading into good advice, somebody who was wise. And so it came about that they're trying to get out from under Jabin, and there's a leader from the Israelites named Barak, and they go up against Jabin's forces, and their main leader is named Sisera. He is their military leader, and they sort of get them on the run, and Sisera runs off by himself away from his forces, and he comes upon Heber the Kenite. Now here is where the coincidence comes into place, because Deborah, while she was sitting under the trees, did not want to have to go out to battle, but Barak was kind of insistent. You've got such good judgment, we need you there, you're a leader, come out with me. And she kind of I picture in exasperation says, fine, but I'm gonna say that if you make me go with you, then I'm gonna prophesy that your battle will hinge on a woman. Your enemies will be delivered to a woman, which means that the men weren't going to be mighty and victorious, and it wasn't going to be some brawn or some sort of situation where they had been victorious because they were super smart and really strong and figured out a good battle plan. It's going to hinge on a woman. And she says this before they go out into battle. And the battle gets disrupted, and Sisera runs, and he comes upon Heber the Kenite. Now, the Kenites did not live in the region where Heber had settled, and it says that Heber has been separated, and the language here suggests that he had sort of been, not of his own accord, separated from the Kenite group. But here he is, living on his own, far from where Kenite lands are, so far that he's on the border of Canaan. And it says that he has made peace with Jabin. And this would be smart to do strategically, because if you've moved your family out away from your tribal lands, you don't have protection. So he's sort of living in this borderland with his wife. I'm just gonna go for what I want to pronounce it as Jael, Jael. They are living out exposed. They're by themselves. It's not typical. We don't see people going out and living on their own, being independent. They lived with their tribes. But here they are out and away. And I think just like any time in our lives where something appears to go wrong, or we wind up in a place that we never expected to be, and we don't understand why. Here's Heber in the middle of nowhere, and he's made peace with both the Israelites and Jabin, the king of Canaan. And so he's very strategically placed for helping out Israel. He's in the right place at the right time because God has arranged it. So when my husband and I say there are no coincidences, we know that's because when we see something that seems to align so perfectly, coincidence is just another name for God's plan. So Heber may not have understood why he was out there, but here he is in the perfect position, and he's gone away for the day. And Sisera comes along and finds his wife Jael at home. Now there's a lot of back and forth about what really happened here. Did Jael seduce Sisera? Did she merely bring him into her tent and give him, it says that he asked for milk and he was really tired, so she gave him some milk and then put him down for a nap. The upshot is, though, that while he's asleep, she takes a tent peg and drives it through his temple, killing him. And then she goes out and finds Barak and brings him back to the tent and shows him his enemy there dead at the hands of a woman. It is a big deal at this time. Women they weren't strong like this. They weren't capable of killing in battle. They weren't warriors. And for her to have done this is a big deal. But it's also a big deal when Barak comes upon this, that he's the one who Deborah told directly that this battle will end at a woman's hands. The victor will be a woman. Now, it sounded really ridiculous when she said it, but here it is. Barak is the one that comes upon Sisera dead in Jael's tent. And it's interesting in Jewish tradition here. Obviously, if Jael did seduce Sisera, that should be against her vows. She's a married woman. She has now slept with somebody other than her husband. And so there's a lot of trouble there. But scholars in the Jewish faith feel that what she did, because with Sisera dead, it saved Israel. She saved Israel with one tent spike and possibly infidelity. And they see it as the fact that she did it for heaven. She did it for God instead of her own reasons. And I don't know, maybe Sisera came upon her by force. Maybe she was angry and took out her own vengeance. There are so many dimensions here, but I think what's fascinating is that we're looking at a moment in time where a woman steps up into a societal position that she would not normally have been in, because she was in the right place at the right time, and she understood the stakes. She understood what it meant that this man was vulnerable to her and would not have expected her to harm him because she is a weak woman. and she took advantage of that and becomes the heroine, and she is held up with all the other women that are that are glorified in Jewish history for it. The Song of Deborah, then, is one of the most lauded examples of poetry. She gives God the credit for the victory, and the thing that stands out here is that it says the land is undisturbed. The land, after every one of these battles, when Israel calms back down and starts to worship God again, it says the land is undisturbed. It doesn't say that the people were undisturbed again. It says the land was undisturbed, which I really love. Again, highlighting the fact that there is an action coming from the land. There is a almost a personhood, or an ability coming from the land, to an agency from the land. So after the Song of Deborah, we then have the rise of Gideon, and Gideon is a fascinating figure here. He is going to, these chapters at the end of chapter 6 here is where the fleece happens, the test of the fleece, where Gideon asks for a sign, and there's moisture, there's dew on the fleece one morning and nowhere else, and then there's dew everywhere else but not on the fleece. He really has an opportunity to interact with the angel of the Lord and questions and asks for signs, and becomes the next judge in Israel. But I think it's important for us to be aware that when the things that we call coincidence in mainstream America, we shouldn't just pass those off. They are the miracles that we get to be part of. They're those synergies in God's plan where He has put us in exactly the right place at exactly the right time to effect a change, to do good. They're just not coincidences. We are often being used in ways that we don't understand. And there are opportunities to be grateful. There are opportunities for us to be in awe, and to give God the credit for that. When we're put in the right place to help somebody, to offer a drink of water to somebody who is dying for a drink. It can be really simple things, but if you stop and you look around at these things, you will see coincidences everywhere. And if you start to look deeper at those coincidences and realize that it really is God making sure that His plans are being carried out, and you having the honor and the privilege of being part of that plan, it's pretty cool. I pray that God is blessing you today, and that He blesses you with the awareness of all of those moments where you are being placed at exactly the right place, exactly the right time, to get a blessing for yourself or to be a blessing for somebody else. And I will see you here on another day. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and share with a friend. And I'm always interested in hearing what God is laying on your heart. So drop me a rating or review, or join the conversation on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube at Dawn Combs Really.